Welcome, everybody, to Perfecting PT. I'm Nate Knorr, your host, physical therapist, and I am here with Jared. He's also known as or Prof Corrective on
Yep.
Instagram, and we were just kind of shooting the breeze before we were recording and figured we might as well include it in the podcast. So just so everyone's aware, I asked Jared what he wanted his topic to be today, and he shot me back with, let's talk about why your pain is not getting fixed. So, it should be an interesting one today. I'll let you guys know a little bit more about him. He'll tell you a little bit more about yourself while we're just chatting and hope you guys can enjoy the conversation today. So what were you saying, Jared?
So I definitely want to talk about why your pain is not getting fixed. But you had asked me a question before we hopped on today when we were talking, and it was, or you had made a statement, and it was you were trying to make people aware of, in terms of you should just work out when they're talking about they're in pain or something else is going on, and that was what brought me to this. That's how I became Professor Corrective. Actually, I was really just taking on my path to a whole nother career, just taking a side gig as a personal trainer. And I was having someone do a push-up, and I really wanted to be the best. If I was going to do it, I was going to be good. So I studied and everything. And I was having somebody do a push-up, and I asked them, I was like, do you have back pain? And they were like, yeah, how'd you know? And I was like, and your shoulder hurts too, huh? Or something's wrong with it. And it was like, yeah, I hurt my shoulder. And I was like, Neil, how do you know? I was like, well, you can see it. I was like, I'm watching you move. And just understanding mechanics and biomechanics, I'm like, that looks like it hurts. Like that looks like it's in the wrong place, right? Right when you're using it. And so I had a kind of a knack for recognizing breakdowns in biomechanics in the beginning, and I kind of delve into it. But what I really noticed again was, like, if I have this person do 1,000 push-ups, he's gonna either his back or his shoulder is gonna go, right? And so when you said, like, people say you should just work out. Well, there are certain imbalances, there are certain weaknesses that become apparent in a body when somebody's moving, that you can just say you're going to break down, and you're going to break down right there or right there, like, I don't know, 10,000 reps in. 100% though, by the 10,000th rep, that bitch is snapping, right?
Well, right. And we were talking before the podcast, like the main goal of the podcast is just exposing people to ideas. It seems that, the second anyone wants to come up with a new idea or an innovative thing that they're finding value in, the evidence-based Nazis come down in. And I don't know if we'll get filtered because I said that word, but who knows? But they come in like, well, what's the evidence for that? Or evidence says that you can just exercise and you'll feel better. So for anyone listening, like we're trying to expose people to ideas because there's so much more nuance than that. People are getting better results by not following that. Like, and there's other ways to do things other than exactly what the evidence gives us, which isn't as much as people would like to make it out to be.
Well, okay, can I give an analogy?
Of course.
Right? Because I think you're hitting on it, right? Here's the deal, right? I can till a field with a hand hoe, or I can get a caterpillar, right? I can or a tractor, right? So like, if you can work really hard and get very, very, very far. Absolutely. But if there's a smarter option, why aren't you taking it? Right. And you can get more done and be more productive and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in terms of when you talk about evidence-based, I know I talk a lot, I'm sorry, but like,
that's good.
It used to, and this is what I tell everybody, because this is why I call myself Professor Corrective, because I understood, like I said, I had a knack for it. I was very good at it very quickly, and was doing corrective work and running to PTs, physical therapists, because they're done with physical therapy, right? And the shoulder feels good, but the overall breakdown is still there. I can still see 10,000 push-ups later, it's not going to be healthy, right? And so I'm in the beginning, I'm reading, and then I'm running to physical therapists and other people and studying other people to learn the nuances, right, of how to help and fill in the pieces and all that other kind of stuff. And so, like, had a point, at a place where I was going with this. The thing that I'm trying to say is that when we are, goodness gracious, when we're training the body and when we're trying to make improvements over the long haul, there are two key places where I would tell people to pay attention to. Okay. And I'm writing on this on my stories right now because I tripped my back, right? And my hip structure, my femur structure, like all of that stuff is not built for me to be a great squatter. It's just not. Like I tell people, LeBron James can dunk a basketball all day long, but he would be a horrible power lifter. Horrible, right? His limbs and everything else do not yield to it. And if he tried to be a great one, he would break down well before he could become great.
Yeah.
Right.
His structure is not inherently driven towards those types of lifts.
100%. Right. And so that's one key thing I would say people that going into the gym need to understand. Like there will be certain things in the gym that you'll never be great at, and you don't need to be great at to be a great human. and so pursuing that, you just gotta, if you're gonna swim upstream, know you're swimming upstream, right? Like I knew when I was doing those back squats, like this is the lift that for me I need to be the most careful with, the most slow in my progressions, and et cetera, et cetera. And I didn't pay attention to that, and so ding myself, right? And so, but I know that like I'll never be a Mark Henry. I'll never be a great back. I'll never be one of those guys that can pound for pound best back spotter in the world. And trying to get there, I'll probably hurt myself well before I even come close, right? So it's a lift that I need to be careful with. People need to understand that, like, I think you should be able to do everything that a human being should be able to do, but your ceiling and your capabilities with that, you need to recognize it. Because when you pursue fitness and when you're trying to get in shape, let's just keep it super simple. If you're built like a power lifter and you try to go and train like an endurance athlete, you're actually probably increasing your risk of injury and decreasing your ability to see it through all the way to the very, very, very end of the journey. And so, and so those are the kind of, really, if you're talking about myths that I'm trying to break, right? And it just so happens, like I said, like I found in terms of the Professor Corrective narrative is that there's a gap between physical therapy, surgery, physical therapy, and doing the things that I want to do in the world, right? There's a gap between that, right? Because surgery is to kind of get you back out into the world. Physical therapy is to get you back useful. Can you do the things that you want to do, that you do every day or have to do every day to survive? But people still have weak links. And if they start to try to reach new levels and progress their fitness, that weak link or that weak point is going to be the place where they break, right? And then they're back in physical therapy, but physical therapy only patches it to a certain level. And you know this. Right?
Well, I will say this. I think the biggest problem I run into with physical therapy, I was talking about this with guys last night. It's oftentimes most physical therapists don't see the body as a complete integrated system. They see it as, oh man, the guy's shoulders hurt. It's like rotator cuff's probably weak, maybe parascapular muscles are not kicking in the way we want them to. And that's it. They give them some external rotation. They have them doing some lifts. And as soon as they're pain free, they're like, okay, you're good to go. And it's like, no, you're not.
He lost thoracic rotation.
Right.
100%.
Right. And it's like they're not looking at thoracic rotation. They're not looking at maybe how that whole chain is connected fascially down through the hips, like down through the leg.
Yes.
And there will be plenty of people that are like, well, the evidence says that we don't need to do that. And I don't mean to give a tone to the people that are, we appreciate you guys looking at the evidence, but
the problem is, that's where I was going. The evidence the research hasn't got there. The data sets aren't being heavily looked at enough. So that's where I wanted to go. when I read my first biomechanics book and I was looking at it, and they still taught or had in there the math for vertical shin angle in the first biomechanics book I ever looked at, right? And that math is completely wrong. But nobody was and we now know enough about human orthokinematics, right? Human kinematics, how the body works, right? To know that math for vertical shin angle was wrong. Like the forces do not balance out to zero with your knee in that position because the body can't create tension in those in those ways. You're going to get a shearing force every time. The shin bone is going to want to slide out, right? You just, you know what I mean? That's what it has to do. So you have to create a strap tension across it, right? So anyway, so but like that was wrong. And it's like, there are other places where we're still like not in terms of, you talk about the evidence is starting to catch up, because there actually was a study that came out in 2023 where he actually, you should check it out. They talk about they call them myofascial units, but basically they use the same thing as the trigger point system. And the actual offer, he actually talks about something that I picked up on when I was, like I said, when I was looking at this stuff. And it's that each trigger point is a long force vector or a line of tension. The line of tension that a weight being dispersed has to travel through the human body. And so in what would be each force link or leak, right? So where that force vector, or where that I can't think of any other way to explain it other than a force vector. But basically, if people can't understand that, like maybe I'll try to come up with a better explanation later.
Yeah, a direction of force, a line of force.
Yeah, a line of force, right? And so that line of force has to change direction. Like, so if my arm is outstretched and it's holding a weight, there's a line of force, right? That weight's pulling down. So my arm can't just create a straight up force, right? It has to combine multiple forces to get a force that travels up, right?
Yeah, that matches the weight. Sure.
Yeah, it has to create enough forces, like in different directions to push this up, because we don't have a muscle up here to lift up. So we have to use muscles that are horizontal, right, beneath, tangential, all that kind of stuff to the weight to push it up and disperse it, right? And we understand that in punching power, that relates to what's going on in a foot, right? It's like, that makes sense to us. But what bothers me is we don't think about that in terms of holding a cup. Right? So that's what I mean when I say the evidence is lacking. So it's like, you can't talk about force production and transduction, right? And in a body, in any term of an athletic movement, and then say that, like, my shoulder doesn't affect my gait, and how my shoulder affects my gait doesn't affect how much twist and turn goes through my low back, right? So even if I fix what's happening at the low back, if I still have a weight that throws me, three quarters to the right more than it does to the left, 1,000 steps a day, I'm gonna wear in a imbalanced pattern, right? And so you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I mean, that's just, if you tell me we're that evidence says otherwise, right? Then you have to show me a data set that looks at what it is that I'm talking about. You know what I mean? And so you don't have enough meta studies that, and then so I get this question a lot where we talk about, well, you can't say that when you change posture, you take away pain, right? And that's definitively true, right? But I can talk about correlations.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? And if a correlation isn't evidence enough for you, then I don't know. That's the first basis of science, right? I'm observing two things happen, and I'm saying, and so then then I run an experiment to back that correlatory data, right? And so my point being is if all my data says that as I alleviate posture or as I balance out a person's posture, or what I tell people is alleviate pressure in this specific area, because usually you can see it collapsing on something, right? Then, and your pain goes away, then ipso facto, then maybe the two things are related. I'm really concerned about your pain, but I'll let the picture of what's going on tell me, and maybe I don't help. And so, and I'm not going to say I've never failed anybody. I'm not going to say I've helped everybody that's come across my path. I'm done pretty good, but like, I'd be fucking lying. Then I'm not that. So I'm sorry. Yeah. Anyway, but like, you're evidence, study it. I want to see someone look at this person looks this way for 20 years. What broke down, what didn't, da. And then, and almost you can never find the same exact posture. Show me this person looked this way for 20 years and nothing ever broke down. Right now, again, right. And so, or the, you know what I mean? And so, and I don't think, if someone can show me that level of data, it'd be awesome. And yeah, okay. Anyway,
it would be, it would be helpful. And for anyone listening, like, so I'll kind of break down kind of what I understand, and Jared will add his 2 cents. Like the concept of muscle imbalances in the rehab world, from what I know, that's primarily from the work of Vladimir Janda. Vladimir Janda was a Czechoslovakian physician who did rehab, who didn't believe in actually loading patients with weight. He didn't give resisted exercises. It was all muscle balance and sensory motor based interventions to try to balance out the interaction of muscles around a joint so that they would be able to help the joint move as seamlessly as it could. So the idea that, okay, if the muscles around a joint are not acting equally on the joint, that the joint will be worn differently than if the other side was too tight, or if they were equal, shouldn't seem that far out. You and we're not trying to say that everyone their bones are in the wrong place, like how chiropractors will say they're out of alignment. Like, we're only saying it's like with a car. If you've got certain parts of the suspension that are pulling those tires into different places, the tires will simply wear differently. And the body, to a certain extent, is a mechanical system. And when you have different levels of tension and stress on different areas, you are inherently going to cause more stress on certain sections than others, that over time could lead those to break down more.
100%. Yes. No, but it doesn't mean like a Usain Bolt is going to break down in certain places, as is a Michael Phelps. Doesn't mean you have to change their posture, but you have to prepare those tissues properly, because they're going to be worked the way that they're going to be overused.
Yeah.
And so, okay, go for it. Okay. I'm sorry.
And so like that's all we're saying. And so the idea that it's like, oh, well, changing posture doesn't change pain. It's like, yeah, true. The data does say that. It's like, but posture is not something you are actively controlling. Like, you're not constantly thinking about how you're standing, you're sitting, you're moving. That is a reflexive response to what your brain is perceiving as millions of interactions between different structures in your body.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, if I sit up straight and I try to hold that for days and weeks at a time because I have back pain, it's not going to fix my issue. However, if we have some good theories about muscle balance, postural assessment, movement analysis, and we can pick up on what the body is preferentially doing that may be causing certain structures to be stressed, and we can begin to introduce things to maybe push that a little more towards a balanced place, you may be able to improve pain. And if you do that often enough and see that pain does improve, it's like, it wasn't the posture. It was the relationship of the rest of the body, and the posture was just the outward signal of that thing.
I call it a screenshot of what's going on in your underlying nervous system, right? Like it's like we're peering into it. Like, it's definitely doing some of these things when it's when you're not thinking about it, when it's shut down, when you're not consciously active. And that's what, and that's all. and it's the best picture we can get, because if all I'm working with is your neuromuscular system, which is all I'm working with, right? That's it.
Sure.
And so, yeah, you know what I mean? And so it's like, okay, all right, cool. And I actually tell people that, like, send me x-rays, like, it's helpful and I kind of care, but at the same token, again, I'm looking at force displacement. And I tell people, so again, if there's an actual acute problem if there's a specific problem at the area, like an acute injury, I'm like, well, have you been to your PT? Have you been to your doctor? And if it's like really acute, I'm like, you got to go to a PT first and then come to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm putting the whole picture. I understand it. Like some more acute, fresher injuries, I'm like, that's not my thing. Like I don't know. I'm not going to touch it. I don't want to damage it worse. You can see me. You know, your therapy will be up in a month, 2 months, right? And that's still going to be a weak link when you try to, you know, bench press 200 pounds again, or blah 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 blah, right? And so like I'll get it caught up then, right? Or like I'll give you the exercises necessary to make sure that doesn't break down next time you go into a major movement. But we don't we don't we just I don't know how it gets dismissed. And I actually think it gets dismissed in part because I don't think you can charge people. I guess you could, if you could, like a chiro, if you can. I don't think you can charge people for insurance for it. So that's why I don't think it gets studied as deeply as it could be, because it goes from understanding, like, you know, I'm trying to think of like another kind of general maintenance thing. Like, you know, like you need house builders, you need repairmen, and then you need to know how to clean your own floors and paint your own walls and do all that other kind of stuff. Your body is no different, right? Something catastrophic goes wrong, right? You got to go to an expert. You got to go to a doctor. You got to go to blah, 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 blah. But general stuff, you need to know how to maintain and prepare for. And I feel like that is a huge gap. And I feel like, and the biggest problem I see in terms of my side of the industry, right, is people giving in blanketed advice of do this. And I guess because it sells on social media, but do this for your back, do this for your hip, do this for your blah, blah, blah. And I kind of, if it's that, it's okay. Like, it's like, this will improve my hip internal rotation. This will improve this. But like the thing that bothers me is, like, a lot of times, because I see a lot of people with pain, or they're still in pain or in chronic pain, or like I said, they're coming out of therapy and still hurting. They cannot do a lot of the cool stuff that people put up on IG to help their hip pain or their back. Like, I can't move my hip up here. Like, that hurts too fucking bad. Right. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, it's like, so the regressions, which aren't sexy, right?
No. Right? And it's questionable whether the people on IG actually know the regressions, when to use them, how to use them. And so, because I think, you know, for anyone listening, I think here's the problem. I heard this on a guy said this. I was listening to do you know who Bill Hartman is, Jared?
I heard the name before. If I saw the face, I'm bad with names, man. I'm bad with names. I can. Has he written something? Because in my head, I can see the name on paper.
I don't know if he's written any books. I mean, he's over the UHP network as well as the Recon exercise program, but he's heavily based in the body as a system, looking at structural commonalities, lifts that are more appropriate for certain structures.
Man, you giving me some people to look up. I heard a yard off still, of course, but
yeah, you need to look up. You need to look at Bill Hartman. But
okay.
Something I liked that he said is, he said, we have this. Shoot, what did he call it? He called it some type of bias, where you see it a lot with people who are emulating Ben Patrick, who does knees over toes. Like, suddenly you have pain-free guy who I you know, could be a brilliant person. Nope. You know, if you hear this pain-free guy, I'm not trying to throw shade, just saying. You see a lot of people that essentially you'll see Ben Patrick's exercises, and now there's 10 other accounts that all have a large amount of followers, that in reality, they're just spitting out the exact same stuff that Ben Patrick, as a brilliant individual, is pushing the way for. And a lot of people see it. I can get followers, copy it, post it, and they're just saying, do this to fix your knee pain, do this to fix your back pain, when they really don't know the first thing that led Ben to decide these things in the first place. No knowledge.
And if you get Ben's program, he has regressions are a big part of it. I do feel like he has holes in it. I have a kid I used to mentor, friends with Ben Patrick, and
Oh, cool.
he's a fan. I'm a huge fan. He is one of the we need people to bust the myths like him, right?
Yes.
But then you have, like you said, you have copycats that have no idea what they're talking about, just putting the information out there, and it's you know, it's question. I don't know. It's
questionable because they see it. 10 accounts post something they know nothing about that they saw a real expert see, and then when other people search it up, now they see 11 accounts that are all saying the same thing, and they're like, "This must be it. This must be how I get fixed." And then they try it. It doesn't help, and then they go into this. Then they go into this pit of like, "Well, I saw that as the biggest thing, so I must be. Maybe I just can't get better."
So you know what I try to tell people as soon as I hop on the phone with them. Okay, yeah, I call myself Professor Corrective or whatever. I say, something like 60 to 70% of corrective exercises for any specific area will hurt 30% of people. Right. Sure. So it's like 2 out of the 3 exercises, or maybe 1 out of 3 exercises that you see to help with your issue, it's a good chance that one's going to hurt your issue. It's actually going to make you worse. Right. And so, and that's really where the expertise, it comes into play. Like, and not even to say that like somebody who's really great at it can't tell you to do something and be like, oh, you weren't mobility. If they didn't test mobility wise, you weren't ready for that exercise. Strength wise, you don't have the stability to do that one yet. You know what I mean? Right. That was, and so like those are like the key pieces that like people, when people give that blanketed advice, that's what bothers me about it. That's what, more than anything else, is that like, just have the understanding, especially because I think a lot of people reach out to me, and some of these people have hundreds of thousands of followers. So I know people reach out to them. Right. If you don't have the knowledge to say that, even if you put that out there, I try my best not to, because even though it hits, that content hits. Sure. But to tell somebody like, these 2 exercises may help with, like, I hate it. Like, I don't know. Like, these 2 exercises, if I put up that, I try to put up the most regressed version. Or like, you know what I mean? Not too extreme. But it's just dangerous. That's what I think. That's what, personally, without a disclaimer, it's just dangerous, because I have had people come to me that I literally, after I did something like just a basic screening on them, and they showed me the thing that they've been doing from whatever, and I was like, and my hip just burns, and I'm like, no, duh. I was like, you should not be doing that. I was like, you need to open your groin up more before you ever start to do that hip exercise. Like, you got foam. I'm like this is like, you're grinding, you're impacted in your joint, and you're just impacted it even more. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm like, it's like, you have the opposite problem of what that exercise helps. Right. Like, that is that.
Well, and I'll say this, like, for anyone out there, like, there is a percentage of people, and we're not trying to, get mad at anyone, say anyone's not doing a good job. We're just saying, statistically, there will be a percentage of people that will not be well suited to the intervention you're providing. There is also an ideal target audience that you're like, you should just move and you'll feel better. There's a percentage of people that will work for.
Oh,
but
yes.
But the problem is, there isn't always the nuance. People we live in a society of black and white, where it either is or it isn't. And unfortunately, we can't make healthcare like that as much as we'd like to. It's like, it's not that dry needling is good or bad. It's that it will be good for a certain percentage of people. And it's not about fighting over whether it's good or bad. It's about fighting to find what people benefit most from that and then incorporating that into a system. So what I and I think that's the big thing we're talking here, because maybe you're going to do these hip or back exercises, shoulder exercises, whatever you see on social media. It's not necessarily that they're going to you may not tear a labrum, you're not going to blow a tendon, like it's not that, but you are putting an input into a system that is monitoring so many things. And if you start putting more inputs into a system that and it doesn't like it,
especially if that system's already damaged.
Right. Yeah. If that system's already in a fray because of other longer standing issues, like
Yes.
we're just talking like it's not as simple as like my hip needs to be more mobile. It's like your hip is a part of a system. And it's like, and if the hip does not want to be more mobile, the body is doing that on purpose for a reason.
Yes.
Everything all the positions your body goes into, it does on purpose. Your body is not doing things wrong. Your body is doing whatever it feels is best for what it is interpreting. So we could, I mean, you guys can probably
smartest machine on the planet, brother.
Yeah.
We live inside of the smartest. That is the one thing I try to nail into everybody's head. Your body is almost never wrong. It's responding to your inputs almost all the time.
Right.
So, and when you make a mistake, it's trying to correct for it. Like 100 out of 100 times. And so maybe it blew something out, but it was your input was wrong. Trust me.
Right. So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're good, Jared. I'm having a great time. And I hope the people that are listening are having a good time. But as you guys can probably tell, Jared and I could probably just shoot the bull for hours on end, but we won't, because we know you guys are coming here to get some. I mean, I think you guys have already learned some interesting concepts you can start to play with, think about, just get the wheels turning. But if I could, Jared, let's talk a little bit about your topic. But I would like to ask you a first question. Like,
it flows right. This why your pain is not getting fixed, right?
Yeah,
it
does. It
is it because at least just mathematically, we'll just go because I told you I'm a mathematician by learning.
Yeah,
a third of the things you try are not going to work and or hurt you, slow down your progress.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, we don't necessarily
that's it.
Yeah,
go for it.
And I'll just say this: when we say hurt, we don't mean you're going to blow something out right now.
No.
We just mean hurt in the sense of counterproductive to what your body would want to get better. Because if anyone's going to be like, those guys were talking misinformation, or you're going to get hurt. We're not saying that. We're saying it's.
I have had because of where I'm at. I've had people do an exercise that they said hurt until they hurt worse and couldn't they said it was good for me. And like you know you're PT, but I know you've had clients come into you and you were like, you kept stretching that. Why?
Yeah, they're like, I kept doing it, but it hurt. And they're like, what should I do? And I'm like, maybe don't do that. And they're like, oh, really? And I'm like, revolutionary. It's like, well, okay.
But they said it was good for me. And it's like, and the more you did it, the more you hurt.
And we'll need to.
It's a rare fruit, but people also eat Tide tablets. Let's keep it 100. I'm sorry. I didn't want to offend anybody.
My Saint Bernard came to say hi.
Oh, very nice. Oh, what a
she's
gorgeous. She is gorgeous. She is gorgeous. Like I'm sorry. I had to throw that in there because you keep saying that, and most people won't. But there are people out there that are either just so stubborn, right, or so pig-headed or whatever that something will hurt, and just because like somebody said it was a good idea, they'll do it over and over and over again until the problem is unbearable. Sometimes And I think I get those people because it was advice from like a bad PT. There are bad PTs in the world, people.
Yeah, again, it's statistics. There are good physicians, there are bad physicians, good surgeons,
Yeah.
bad surgeons. Like
Yeah.
it's simply a statistic probability that someone is going to be not good at their job, and yet they are still responsible for helping people. But
100%.
so we'll get into your topic, Jared. But I'd like to set it up in a sense of, if we could, I'd like to see kind of if you have a preferred area of treatment. I mean, obviously, we're looking at the body as a system. I'm
Oh, okay.
curious to see if you have. So, give me just a minute. I'll kind of outline
Oh,
what
okay.
I would like to kind of like the main goals I'd like to get through for anyone listening as well. I'd like to talk kind of what the most common thing you see is, how you go about with your system. And for anyone wondering, Jared actually has a system. It's an app that's available. You can go to his Instagram. He's got good content on there to follow.
Thank you.
But I'd like to kind of know what you like to see most, or what you do see most, how you go about identifying what is wrong, and kind of just your framework. And it may take a while, and that's okay. I'm here for it as long as we need to chat. But
Well,
as far as
I'm not gonna
what are
lie.
the nuances
I probably got like a hard stop in like 30.
you said you got a hard stop in 30?
Like 30ish, like 30ish. I'll try to go. I planned on like 5:30 is when
Yeah,
6:30 your time.
that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
And about an hour is good, because people don't want to be sitting there. I have an over 2 hour podcast, and it was great. But some people like 2 hours. Like, well, it takes time to get into the nuances of the situation. But
Well,
anyway, so
okay,
let's
I'd love to do it again. I just got to be mentally prepared for that.
Oh yeah, no, you're good.
Okay.
So what is your, I guess, what do you see most often, or rather, what is the thing you prefer to treat? Is it back pain? Is it shoulder pain? Like, what is your favorite thing?
My favorite thing to work with, typically, really in truth, is back.
Okay,
Back pain.
low back, upper back.
So mostly low back. And the reason I say that's my favorite is because I think the problem is so poorly understood.
Okay.
Because I think when you run into where you talk about the body being an integrated system, right? What I find is that low back pain is where that's most relevant.
Okay.
And it's where, to me, it is the least studied, right?
You mean
And so
because
you're
it's
like
the
people,
central place where everything's connecting from all sides?
yeah, right. And so, but it took I think it was 2020, they came out with a study that that said that individualized back treatments have an 85% higher success rate than like standardized. But then it's still a very standardized treatment to most back issues, right? Like, you have an issue between L4, L5, like, this is what we're going to do. This is the playbook. This is the exercises that are going to help. And so it's like, so back pain is my favorite, because typically when people come into me, like, they've been through the ringer, they've like seen person after person after person, and then like they come to me, and I'll be honest, it's like a relatively, not easy, but it's not a hard fix. And it's just because, like, what I find is, like I said, like, when people are looking at back pain, they're looking at it's almost never the location. I wouldn't say almost never. It's like, unless it was a direct impact injury, what happened there is literally what I say, where the pipe burst, or where the forces leaked the hardest. It had nowhere else to go. That forces that were supposed to transfer at that part in your back hit a block and busted out, right? And so I can't patch it where it is. I have to patch the pathway.
Absolutely.
Does that make any kind of sense? I have to patch the
absolutely.
pathway. And because it's neurological, I can't just bind it at that spot, right? And so, well, I shouldn't say that. because we didn't understand how fascial systems and fascia in the body work, we didn't understand because what is other than your okay, here we go. Here it is. Here. Let's make the fascial connection for your back. Thickest, like one of the thickest, most dense, largest webs of fascia in your body is your thoracolumbar fascia. Why?
Yes.
Right? Because all muscular communication, all the fascial pathways have to travel through it, and muscular communication is responsible for stability in that area.
Okay.
So that's where left shoulder to right hip and right shoulder to left hip, all of those connections have to travel through there for locomotion. All of the connections for upper body to lower body stability when I hold a weight out in front or anything else have to travel through that area. And if in that area, when that area breaks down, it's the connecting, if we think of fascia as a web, it's the central place for the entire web, the webbing system, right? And so you can't pop that, put it back together, and expect the webbing, the whole system to work together, right? So in other words, like it's so when that pops, like you're gonna get a string that fucking falls off all the way over here, right? Or does that make am I making any kind of sense? And then typically also when it pops, it's gonna pop from the pulling of one side over the other, right? So one part of it, unless it's a direct acute injury, right? That area is so bundled up. It's only going to happen if something gets pulled. You can see me on the camera, but people on the phone can't see me. It's only going to happen if something gets pulled hard in the other direction. The best way I compare it and I tell my construction because I get a lot of construction guys that come to me for back pain, is if you got a crack in the middle of a wall. Say you just walk into a house and there's a crack in the middle of a wall. Foundational issue, water damage. I know if I patch that crack, that's nothing. That's gonna fix jack shit, right? You have a crack or a back pain, that's like a crack in the middle of a wall. You have to figure out where something's leaking or something foundational is somewhere else, and you have to figure out where that foundational issue is or where that leak is, or else that crack's gonna come right back every single time. I can put paper over it, I can patch it, blah blah blah. But that crack didn't get there from somebody hitting that wall with a hammer. That crack came because of stressors in the structure, right?
Great.
And
so that leads in my next question then. So where a guy comes in, especially construction workers that are so generally fit and strong by a lot of standards, even though they're beating the crap out of themselves. Where does your mind immediately go when someone comes in with that back issue? Like, where are your hot spots that you're like, these are not transducing or handling the force they're supposed to well, and it's getting shot back to the back?
So first things first is a posture analysis, right? So I mean, I don't even want to talk to you much before I have you do a posture analysis. And so how that's done is super important. Like most posture analysis courses will teach it, but I've seen people do it wrong quite often. So first thing to understand when you're doing a posture analysis is your body orientates itself to the world around you, right? That means when my eyes are open, my body is going to slightly shift tensionally based upon what it is that I'm looking at, right? And so we can exaggerate this by putting you in a fun house and, the world looks like it's leaning. So the next thing you know, you're kind of leaning, right? You know what I mean? And so, or you look at somebody who's leaning and the next thing you know, your head is turned to the side, right? And this is just how visual acuity relates to underlying neuromuscular tension, right? That subconscious stuff, right? And so we close the eyes and we stomp the feet. That kind of unsettles that, right? And then most people, and then I'll tell them to stop and let their hands rest by their side. And before they open their eyes, most of the time I'll snap a picture sometimes after, but most important, don't move your head, right? So I do that. I take that picture the same way, front, side, both right and left side, and then the back.
Okay,
and so that kind of
you take pictures.
I do. absolutely.
Yeah.
So I take the pictures and I kind of look at them. And then I'll run it through. I don't run it through. I have a AI software. I don't run it through the software until the end to show the client because again, I've been doing this for a long time. And when I learned posture analysis, there was no software, right? There was none of that. So, as a matter of fact, I don't even think people were doing it too crazy like that when I was learning. But anyway, so it gives me a picture, kind of like I said, what their underlying neuromuscular program is, what I call it. What underlying neuromuscular program are you running? So I see what kind of underlying, and then I ask questions to see if the pattern, or to see where their pain is, to see what's going on. And so then, so what I tell people also is I could have a crack in a wall, and it could be because the left sides are collapsing, or it could be because the right side's collapsing, right? And I'm not, and so I again, I got to figure out which side is collapsing. And then sometimes I tell people, right? So is it a collapse or is it a constriction? So is the body collapsing around a weakness or moving towards a strength, right? And so that's where, like, I do movement tests more than like muscle testing, like an athlete test or something like that. Like I do well, I do movement testing, and I do mobility testing, right? To kind of figure out
what tests
weakness
are you doing?
and strength. Okay, so I do basic. So I do basic FMS screen if they're cleared for it. So functional movement screen. You remember from Gray Cook? Remember Gray Cook's FMS? Functional movement screening. Huh?
I am not familiar with that, but it's FMS by Gray Cook.
Yeah, Gray Cook. FMS. He was probably 2003, 2004.
That's okay. I just wanted to make sure I said it out loud, so when I go back and listen to this, I can look it up because
okay. Yeah. So anyway, so he was a physical therapist out of Australia, and he kind of revolutionized things. He was the first one to put together like a kind of a generalized assessment for functionality and movement. It was like back when, functional training was like just becoming a thing. I don't know how long DNS was around, dynamic neuromuscular stabilization, but it wasn't around for long. So Gray Cook, he was kind of like, even though he was out of Australia, he was kind of like out of that Prague school. So he did a lot of crawling, a lot of rolling, and then he came up with this thing called a functional movement screen, which is basically like overhead squat assessment. I forget what it's called. Maybe it's an athlete, but like a behind the reach shoulder mobility test, inline lunge. I don't really do that one as much anymore because I noticed that like most of the breakdowns that I see in a squat or an overhead squat, and even in your postural assessment, I kind of know where your inline stability is going to lie. So I don't. Again, that's more of a, I've been doing this for 15 years kind of a thing than anything else. So basically, so kind of like I said, basic movement screen, like an overhead squat assessment, shoulder mobility test, whether that's an overhead standing reach or behind the I forget, is it called the athlete when you reach the hand, put your hand behind your back in the middle of the shoulder blade? I forget what it's called. Anyway,
I do not remember.
Okay, all right. See, I don't remember the names of all this shit either. But I take them through various movement screens for mobility. Once I get that and ask the question, so I kind of see if there is a repetitive pattern that their body kind of falls into. So usually, if you see somebody that's right-handed, you'll see their right shoulder more internally rotated than their left one. But I want to do the movement assess. I want to do the physical assessments first before I get feedback from them, because then I'm not looking for anything specific, if that makes any kind of sense. I'm just I'm just seeing what I'm seeing, and then when I come back to them and I'm finding out what their patterns are, I'll see if they kind of fall in line with their patterns, or if something is going, when I see their movement and then in their resting posture, does something go opposite what their natural patterns are. And the reason I do that is because, again, like we said, like posture and pain do not directly correlate, right? And I could even say repetitive patterns and where a person, quote unquote, breaks down doesn't necessarily correlate, right? Like tennis player and tennis elbow, but some tennis players, their wrist or their shoulder that goes first. And so we can't look at just a repetitive movement, but how can I see forces travel through your body? How do I see forces travel through your body and movement? That's the movement screen. All right, so now I have a good idea of like what's going on in your body. Now I'm going to put you on a table and I'm going to have certain ideas of what hot spots and trigger points I'm going to look towards first in terms of what areas of your body. And I'm going to open up based on what I see mobility wise and what I see in the collapses in your structure.
Sure. So I'd like to interrupt you for a second.
Go.
So for people who may not be as aware or just not as familiar with this system, so when you're looking at those things, I appreciate that you're giving an overview. Mm-hmm. What, like, as much as we want to say every person is an individual, we also have so many commonalities.
What are commonalities? Okay.
Yeah. So what are this, like, where are they breaking down? Are you finding that a lot of this have, is it a hip issue that's leading to a hot spot? Is it a shoulder? Is it a knee? Like what? Yeah, I'd like to know more about that.
When I find back issues, right there, you will always see shoulder and hip, and hip compensational things, right? Specifically, you'll see either kind of at least one, if not both shoulders will be internally rotated. That is rounded forward, right? Very rarely. Sometimes you get people with just a deep lordotic posture who don't have rounded forward shoulders that have back pain. But that's rare. Much rare. So usually you'll see either one or both shoulders forward, internally rotated forward. I hear more about. So the way, like a lot of.
I only ask because a lot of people are going to watch this and they're going to be like, what do the shoulders have to do with it? And I think it's important that and it doesn't have to be long, but like, why should I care about shoulder positioning when a patient comes to me with back pain?
Okay, so here's the deal. Like, people talk about head position, and I don't know if people have heard of this. Your head is a 10-pound weight on your body. If I shift it forward, as that weight travels down, we talked about force vectors. As that weight travels down, it's heavier at the basically the pivot point, which for you would be your low back, right? So a forward head posture is most commonly addressed when someone has back issues. But forward head postures, right, are in a rounded shoulder position are linked. So typically when I see a forward head posture, I will also see rounded shoulders in that position. What I tell people is, if those two things, one of the reasons why you see them is when we talked about underlying neurological patterns, right? They happen on the same circuits. So it's very hard to keep my shoulder blades. I actually have to think about it, keep my shoulder blades back and shoot my head forward, right? That is not the same. The neurological circuitry that makes me want to do this actually makes me also want to slightly internally rotate my shoulders. And hence when I lean forward and push my shoulder blades forward like so at the same time. Like this is kind of how like our body was built to kind of do certain movements, right? In a succinct order, right? And so that means that when you fall in a rest. So basically what I'm telling you is that those shoulders rolling forward, not only is it a slumped weight that pushes you forward and applies pressure on your low back, but I'm telling you that this shoulder forward posture is this. If I don't push my head slightly forward, I feel all kinds of ways. So I tell people the shoulders, the head will actually follow that shoulder, right? And it's one of the reasons why, and the way I correlate to people is, if you watch, like when you hear people talk about boxing, right? They say watch the shoulders, watch the hips, and it's a reason, because that circuit that's going to fire before the other one unless you're trained not to. That's how those circuits are going to fire. So even if you're a boxer, if you're throwing from the hip, then the shoulder comes second. And so but still, it's like, you get what I'm saying? So it's like,
yes.
When we understand that those linking patterns. And so if I see this on switch, internally rotated shoulders, I know that certain other on switches are on a certain pattern is turning on. It's a little more geared up than something else. And so then if you have pain, right? Then I'm looking at them like, okay. But it's usually if it's a problem that's unsolved, whatever. I'm looking at that. So I'm looking at internally rotated shoulders, back pain. Every time you do something, you're rounding your spine just a little bit before you lift it up, or you have to think about it to cinch that area down to protect it, right? And so if I want to heal your back, I gotta teach the body how to protect that area. And one of the key things is teaching it how to cinch those shoulder blades back or pull them back to really strap and protect that low spine.
Got it.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you can break that down a little simpler.
No, so I think a lot of people would see that as what people know as upper cross syndrome. This kind of reciprocal action of kind of upper traps tighten, pec minor tightens, shoulders round, head gets brought forward, and it's a common pattern that will impact how the weight of the upper body and the head is redistributed on the spine. And that makes a lot of sense why it would contribute to low back pain. What about on below the spine? What about like hips, knees, ankles? What are you seeing there?
So usually some sort of shift, left or right, and then usually that shift is accompanied with
shift up, shift down, shift out. What do you mean?
So it could be either way, right? It could be left, right. So that's why I take pictures all the way around the body. So one of the things, so sometimes you won't see a lateral shift. Sometimes you'll see a rotational shift, right?
Okay.
Where one hip will be slightly in front of the other. Where most times you'll see some sort of lateral and rotational, right? And both of them will pop up during movement again in screening, right? And so when I see those, I'm looking to see, okay, all right, your hips are this way. All right, now are we internally or externally rotated that way? Right? Does this knee, so do I see a knee valgus on this side? And when we're looking at we're looking at your resting posture, right? Does the knee valgus, or does the leg just simply kick out? Like, do you turn the foot out to regain that space, right? And so those are two different compensations down the line. And so what that tells me is, again, like, I am trying to shore up that structure in their low back, right? And so, like, I was telling this to somebody today, like, this is, again, what I see as a big problem in PT, the human or PT, or how we look at the human body. The human body is a pressurized system, right? So what that means, guys, if you're listening to me, is like, if I have a water balloon or any kind of balloon and I squeeze it on one end, the other end's going to expand. That's pressure, right? And so your body is the same way. So that means that I have to have the tension above and below the area of, like, my injury be relatively equal. We talk about yard off, right? Like, so right. If it's internally rotated, right, and then I know that then I probably have to create external rotation. If it's externally rotated and it's dropped, then I'm going to check mobility, and I'm going to notice some structures are probably weak.
Are there any in particular where you're like, man, this is always weak? Because I think when I look at back pain, I find a lot of like hip abductors, hip external rotators, glutes. Like, they're commonly weak. Maybe the hamstring's trying to kick in because it's for other weaknesses.
So here's the biggest thing I tell people, because we used to dig on this, right? Tight hamstrings and back pain. I'm like, no, you probably got weak glutes. right? Like you just like your hamstrings are doing their best to hold your body together. Like we talked about, the body is always trying to do the right thing, and you keep stretching your hamstrings to turn them off, and it gives you a little bit of alleviation. But you know, again, and you'll see, and a lot of times with people with back pain that stretch their hamstrings constantly, you'll see them dip deep into their lordosis. Right, and it'll look like they have a big butt, and you'll tell them, like, you know, you have poor glute activation. And they'll be like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I'm just, hey, look, you know, it's just is what it is. Like, hold on, wait, let's get them activated, and then it's like, oh, my pain, yeah.
Yeah. So I know you got to take off here in a minute, Jared. So let's jump a little into that, because I think for anyone listening, I think you could tell that there could very likely be a part 2 with Jared and I, you know, in the coming months and years.
Oh, I would love to, man.
I'm having a great time. So let's look at a couple things. So why don't we just get into one intervention, top half, one intervention, bottom half, spin it the way you'd like, and then we'll close out here in the next 10, 15 minutes or so. So we're looking at the top half. We're talking rounded, head forward, that's causing a uneven. Oh, that's my dog. She rings the doorbell to go outside. So we're looking at an uneven force distribution from the top half, putting more pressure on either the thoracolumbar junction or the lumbar spine and fascia. And then we also have the lower quarter, which is likely some type of glute, hip weakness, resultant hip stiffness, hypomobility. Like what are your kind of go-to things, like, for the upper quarter to begin to address that? Like we talked about, what is your lowest regression that you're like, I can almost always start someone on this for the upper portion and the lower portion? I'd just love to hear kind of how you get going on treatment.
Okay. All right. So one, I do have a system called Release, Activate, Stretch. And it's just a 3-part system of massage or self-myofascial release, activation or actual exercises, and then stretches. Right.
Do you have this available anywhere that other people could see?
I teach it, but I teach the system, and I can tell you, like, step. But remember what we talked about. What you release is specific to you. Your strength and exercises are specific to you, and your stretches should be specific to you or your issue, right? And I've tried to do like a generalized thing, but like, again, that's one. My specialty is in specialization.
Sure.
And so, but let's talk about the commonalities. That's where we are right now. So let's go. Sure. So first things first, the forward posture. First thing, I'm going to forward or internally rotated shoulders, forward posture, tight pecs, right? We talked about that. So we know if those shoulders are internally rotated and you're kind of at forward head, forward neck posture, right? That shoulders are dumping forward. I know pecs are tight. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have that person work on the muscles, on their pec muscles, and open those up. I'm going to have them check their lats to see if their lats are also tight, because the lats are also, if people don't know this, internal rotators of the shoulder. And so, you know, that's why pulling grapplers, one of the reasons why their shoulders are hard to ever get uninternally rotated. Anyway, so those releases, right? Get those lats let go and those pecs let go. Check some of the musculature under the armpit. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is to get them to release those. And then the thing that kind of
manually, or with like a lacrosse ball, a Theracane, how do you like to release
so
them?
I do it manually, but I'm trained in freaking pretty much almost everything. Thai massage, active release therapy, blah 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 blah. Right? So
just whatever you feel is best to get the pec to calm down.
It's faster if you do it manually. But when people do my program, my online stuff, I have them do it with a foam roller, and or tennis ball. I don't get as deep into lacrosse balls or any other tools, even though we have them here in the gym. Just because just making people buy all that stuff.
Sure.
You know what I mean? If you can do most of the stuff with a tennis ball and a foam roller. Does all the other stuff come into play and helpful? Absolutely. But let's just take it to a hammer and some nails and
Got it.
and leave the power tools out of it.
Got
Okay.
it.
So we use those guys, and then just basic IYTs, man. Like real talk. Like
Mm.
people hate it. People hate it, but it fucking works. If you're talking about that, IYTs all day long. That, and if I had to give and then stretch, guess what? IYT doorway stretch. Right? It sounds boring. Like foam roll these areas, activate that one, and then stretch in the same way you activate it to kind of again get those muscles that you want tight to loosen up. And then the hip piece is more complex. The hip
Okay.
piece is more complex. Only because, and if we wanted to get into like other stuff, we could get more complex with the shoulders too. But that's super simple. The hip piece, it matters because the rotational piece is so important. So I actually, and if they check on my page, almost any figure four position is like I'll step numero uno if you're doing it on your own, right? And the reason I tell you to do that is because you'll be able to feel the differences in hip external, internal rotation, as well as in like the pitch forward and front. So basically, when I say figure four, basically putting one ankle on top of one knee and sitting there, right? Either while you're lying on the floor or sitting upright, right? Or whatever, right? Lying on the floor on your back, sitting upright, and feel your body out. This is for people. Obviously, I'm going to movement test you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mobility. I'm going to check internal, external rotation. I'm going to check your hamstring length. But for you guys at home, super simple. I got back pain. Think it might be related to my hips. You might have to do it laying down. Cross one ankle over top of one knee. Switch. Cross the other ankle over top of one knee with your knees bent. Feel what feels different. It's going to give you an idea of how you're twisted, right? And then you're going to, if you can. So the problem with back pain in the hips, right, is I can't just start foam rolling everything. But typically the groin is going to be tight. Like you said, the hip abductors are going to be weak, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a typical release is going to be I'm going to have you foam roll out your groins, both sides. We're going to check it, and I'll tell you when you find it, spend more time on the worst side. Hip flexors, I would have you check both of them. They're harder to release at home by yourself, but at least you'll be able to feel it. And then I tell people, if you have a tight hip flexor, the quad on the tight hip flexor side is often tight along with it. And if you can get the quad to let go, then you'll be in really, really good shape. So, so I tell people, all right, get that quad to let go on that side with the tight hip flexor. And then we actually move into movement. Now, again, with the hips, usually we're trying to get those glutes to fire. Again, I like that figure four position. I like all kinds of glute bridges. I like glute bridges both with adduction, so squeezing a ball or Pilates ring in between the legs. And the reason is we're trying to get that the pelvic floor, the deep muscles of your core active with the glutes. So we want all of them active together because think of it like that. You're creating that belt, that weight belt around your body, but it ties into not just into my core, but it's tied into the glutes and the structures of the hip, right?
Sure.
And so bingo, bango. And so we do that hip abduction and hip adduction with glute bridges. Right? If I had a mainstay that like I do with everybody that comes to me with back pain is like you said, like I'm trying glute, abductors, adductors, glutes, but really wrapping glute and core engagement together, right?
Sure.
I want your glutes and your core active at the same time, right? And I tell people that's that vice, right? Because if my core is active and my glutes aren't active, then you're really unstable. And if my glutes active and my core is not active, then you're unstable still. They got to be able to be active together to cinch that area up. And then and obviously, like we need to be able to do all kinds of stuff. But a lot of people, what I found is they cannot do that. Like the first thing that even if I ask them to control their pelvis, do you have control, right? Can you shift into and out of your pelvic tilt, right? And so maybe even like there's a lot of arguments when I see stuff off with the hip when it comes to back pain, because it's like it depends on how much pain they're in, because you're close. So the other thing, this is the last piece that I had for my stuff when people come to me back pain, because back is my thing. I never do manual releases right near the affected area. So I'm always looking to change how tension is traveling through that area, not looking to tone tension down in that area. Because I tell people, again, what the body is doing is correct. So if the body's tensed up and tighten that area up and it's protecting it, I don't want to destabilize it directly. I'm gonna change what's going on north and south, and you'd be surprised what kind of, like, literally, if you can figure out what shoulder is dropped or whatever, and you reposition that. I mean, people are like shocked, like, oh my gosh, like I literally felt the tension in my back let go when you were working on my quad, or when you were working on the behind my shoulder blade back there, right? And I was like, they can feel that tension in their back let go, and I'm like, yeah, because we literally pulled it out. All we did was your body was like tightening to protect that area, and all I did was like I literally, and so the way I explain it to people is I can create tension by making a fist, right? In terms of the body, I can create tension and pressure by closing the fist, but I can also, that same tension, if I can spread it out over, I can disperse it over an area, right? And so what happens when the body gets injured is it takes all this spread tension, right? Usually it's a collapse, like we said, right? And it tenses the area close to the injury, right? And it's protecting that area, shutting it down, right? But it's if I can get that tension, if I can take that 5 pounds of force and spread it back out over this elongated area, then it's fine. But your body created that clench or tighten that area up because the pressure on that area was too great. Does that, am I making it? Because that's why I talk about when the pressure is a pressure system. So when the pressure collapses in that spot, the body bundles it to stabilize it. It's also why, and I say it's a pressure system run by fluid dynamics. That's also why, to balance that pressure, one of the most common thing to do is to swell it, to pump water into that end of the balloon, and now I protected it. And so now all I'm doing is creating space in another part of the balloon and letting that pressure go there, and it alleviates. And so, but like, I don't want to affect it. I don't want to just let the other area go. And if somebody has an issue where that it's like that acute, then again, like I said, I send them elsewhere, right? Like, okay, you're in a place where I'm not your guy, right? Like, this is, you know what I'm saying? And I found that out in screening, you know what I mean? And then it's just like, okay, well, you got to go here first, or at least you got to show me some more stuff before I'll touch you. So, and so that's how, but you'd be surprised, especially with the back, how often we can work on a shoulder or a hip. Well, you wouldn't be, especially with and that's why people talk about with their hip flexors, right? And getting that to let go, and it ease that tension in their back. Releasing the muscle where your pain was in your back didn't help, but the hip flexor, you're releasing it distally from the issue, right? You're you know what I mean? Even though it's connected to that, you're not right in that spot where the hip flexor is connected to that L whatever and letting it go. No. You're releasing pressure elsewhere. And so that would be the biggest thing. When your back pain seems to be coming from a hip issue, be smart about like testing and figuring out what exactly is off pressure wise, glute activation, right? And almost never, and it's the most common mistake, almost never massage the area where the pain is when it's your back. Almost never. Unless you really know what the hell you're doing. Because if you don't, you're almost better just laying there stuck in a fucking bed. Like a heating pad is okay because it's going to increase blood flow and stuff like that. But like you get in there and starting to press on shit, probably the worst idea. Even I would say, even if you hurt your back and you put a foam roller, like a peanut, like a rad roller, down in there and start rolling, I was like, that's probably a terrible, terrible, terrible idea. And so really, if you want to ask me what's the advice I got for people with back pain, that's it. That's the number one thing. Stop rubbing where it hurts. Stop rubbing where it hurts, because it's the worst place to have something tighten up and let it go.
Yeah,
because you don't know what's gonna happen. Oh, and okay, the other don't do when you have low back pain, unless you know the nature of it, hanging. So if you ever follow the guy Squat University, he's an influencer.
When he shows people hanging from the bar to, release the tension in the back, to traction the back a little bit.
He shows it, and he talks about it from both the positive and the negative, right? Mm-hmm. He talks about the fact that a lot of back issues are stability issues. And if you have a stability issue in that area, you can do all the hanging from the bar that you want, and it's not going to help you. As a matter of fact, so if you have a stability issue in your back, right? And which is to say, you could argue, say you have a core issue, but the core includes the hips and the glutes, right? Right? Then you could say hanging can become counterproductive to fixing your back issue, right? Because literally you're stretching out your core, you're stretching out that stuff, right? And unless you're doing some hanging with some activation drills or something like that, you could literally be basically turning off the muscle groups that you want to activate, or stretching out the muscle groups that you want to activate and stabilize. So that's that's why I like back pain, because it's a fun one, and it's the thing that, like, people started to come to me for the most, and the thing I think I look at the most differently in terms of this industry than anybody else. And I'll be honest, man, I think it's better people at fixing shoulders and knees than I am. So keep it 100.
That's honest. That's honest. So Jared, I want to respect your time. You said you'd give us till about 6:30 my time, 5:30 yours. So guys, all we're saying, if anyone's sitting there yelling at their radio or whatever, we're only talking about, why do you still have pain? It could be that what's wrong is not being looked at as a system. Your shoulder pain, your back pain, your hip pain.
Yes.
It may be that another location along a predictable path of muscle activation and use is not working as well as it should. And the pain is simply resulting at this area that is overstressed.
Buddy, you said it best.
Thank you. And so for anyone out there that's like, well, you just need to get the body stronger. It's like, we want to reinforce the body. We do want to get it to adapt and be stronger, but maybe the best way to get the body stronger is to stop making a part of it disproportionately handle the loads you're trying to move. Yeah. So,
unless Jared, all you want to do is turn left. That's what I tell people.
What'd you say?
I say, unless all you want to do is turn left. That's what I tell people. If you want to turn your car left, make nothing but left turns, perfect. Let's keep going. If not, we need to readdress.
Yeah.
Because you ain't turning right too well.
Yeah. So for anyone interested, you can find Jared at I believe it's Prof_Corrective, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Prof_Corrective on Instagram. Check out his content. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. We talked about a lot of topics that I don't think a lot of people are familiar with. And I'll leave you with one question, Jared, and you can put in whatever 2 cents you want to finish up.
I gotta figure out how to get up here. Yeah.
No, you're good. My question is, you still there? Your video cut out.
Like I said, here we go. There we go.
Okay, great. Yep, I got one last question for you, Jared, and then you can put in whatever plug or whatever else you'd like to say before we say peace out to the people. What is a resource, maybe a book, maybe a course, maybe a blog or person you follow that has been very helpful in helping you pursue your style of intervention?
Okay, so book. All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's okay. And
So,
if you want, you can shoot me some like a few of them. I can include them in the show notes.
okay. So I will put in just because I have my students read it. Fascial Training by Bill Parisi.
Okay.
It's a good book. It's a good book. I want one of my students is the one who advised that I have him. He's like it's perfectly in line, and so he helped me teach my course. In terms of courses, my course RAS, Release, Activate, Stretch. That's my system.
Okay.
Teach you all about fascial lines, fascial training. What we are starting to understand about how. So the newest knowledge is that muscle. We're no longer going to talk about like the pecs as a muscle system and all this kind of stuff or pressure motion. We're gonna start to define muscle systems by their fascial connections. And so so when what we found out, I think you probably already noticed that your fascia has, is responsible for most of your proprioception in your body, right? More proprioceptive. So what we also have found is that like a lot of your neurokinetic feedback loops happen along fascial pathways, not necessarily nerve pathways. So the loop is fascial, and so that's why the guy renamed trigger points myofascial units. And what he did was he found was that myofascial units are like layered next to basically your sensors, right? They're like, and so he called them units because it's like basically your trigger points, they are like next to a nerve bundle, lymph node. It's four structures: nerve bundle, lymph node, um, not muscle, spindle, fiber, vastal, something to do with your blood vessels. It's like five structures that. So all your trigger points lie like in the center of these little bundles, right? And so like this was a 2023 study, and so what they basically understood is like, oh, okay, so it's the fascia that is the sensing organ that allows the body to recognize what's happening, like allows really the hip flexor and the quad to communicate seamlessly, right? And the best way to understand that is if I really wanted like fast, seamless communication between systems in the body, I would put a net around it. And whenever the net got affected, the other part of the net had to be affected as well. Right. And so that's the simplest way to kind of like understand it. But we literally, study came out in 2023, buddy. 2023. I'll send you the link after we get off.
Yeah.
So like that, if I wanted anybody to read anything, it would be that, because I think it completely changes the fucking game. Right. And in the way that understanding that your gut almost act like a second brain, right? Right. Kind of changed how we looked at nutrition and, almost everything else, right? Neurotransmitters and how you regulate body chemistry, all that stuff, right? Like it was like, oh, your gut's really, 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 really important. Yeah. So now we just really kind of understood that fascia is really, really important. So if I had to tell anybody to dive into anything, I'm telling them dive into that. And understand that like if you want to learn stuff, like if you want to learn what I think is the next level in terms of understanding biomechanics in the human body is really digging on the fascial piece, because I think we understand the other pieces so well. I really actually do. I think we understand the other pieces really, really well. And this is the piece that's like, we've been not ignoring it, but I mean, goodness gracious, you wouldn't have seen a foam roller in the gym 10 years ago. Right? Not in America. Not in America. Yeah. and so like, and we're catching up really, really quickly. And I think it's gonna, and it's the key point when I talk about the interconnectedness. It's the piece that it's the webbing. It's the piece that makes the interconnected thing make sense for all my evidence-based people that say it's not there. It's just that we just ain't caught up. It's not enough studies yet. We getting there.
Yeah.
So that's it. So Bill Parisi's Fascia Training. Check it out. read that. Courses, take my course, please. That's the course I think is one of the best. Other than that, NASM corrective exercise. There's a goodness gracious. I mean, it's a lot of things. I studied FRC, functional range conditioning, from Dr. Andrea Spina. There's a really great guy named Adam Wolf out of Canada.
Yeah, well,
and
if you'd like, Jared, I mean, you're welcome to keep telling us, but I know you
okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting off. You see me. I'm walking to my car. I've been walking outside to my car for like the last 10 minutes. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah,
I could get on with you any day.
You send me a list. You send me a list of some of these things that you want people to know more about.
I'm
we'll get them connected to you.
Okay, I'm gonna send it to you right now. Bill Parisi, Faster Training, Adam Wolf. That guy I think is freaking awesome, and he's got a great personality. He's out of Canada, and of course my class, RAS, Release, Activate, Stretch. Nate, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for having me on here.
Yeah, no problem. I had a great time. I doubt this will be the last time we chat.
I hope not, man. I hope not. Well, at least we can chat about some of these books and stuff I'm gonna send you. And if you do really want to get some, so Adam, I will text you about Adam. Adam's a great. I took some courses with him too. He's a great physical therapist out of Canada.
I want to talk to anyone. I want to talk to everyone. We got to get this figured out. We got to get people better faster.
Yes, that's it. Hey, that's it, man. That's it. That's the mission. I appreciate you, man.
No problem. So,
all right,
everybody, thank you so much. You guys take care, and we'll see you later.
All right, take it easy.
Thanks for listening, everybody. As always, happy to have you. And if there's anyone who is listening to this who wants to come on and talk about this or any other topics on the podcast, I would be happy to get scheduled with you. Just reach out to me at Perfecting PT on Instagram. And I can't wait for the conversations we'll have. Thank you. And if you wouldn't mind, if you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate a good review on Spotify. It'll help me be able to reach more people with the ideas we're trying to share and just let people be aware of what's out there. So everyone take care and have a good one.